right, how's everybody enjoying the conference so far? I know we've been enjoying it for sure. It definitely provides a lot of value for us. And just to clarify a little bit, we have not integrated with Mint quite yet, but we have integrated with Serialized Operations Manager if we get into some specifics there. But ultimately, like I said, my name's Ryan. Nice to meet you all. It's good to be here. We work for SummitSD. Now, SummitSD is a wholesale drug distributor and third-party logistics provider who specialize in the exclusive U.S. distribution of innovator drugs. But before we start, I kind of want to get a realm of who's in the room today. So if you are a manufacturer, so whether you're in the CMO space, you are a marketing authorization holder, would you raise your hand? And then if you are in the 3PL, wholesale drug, the logistics space, raise your hand. Do we have any dispensers? We have one back there. I always like to see you guys here at TraceLink. And then service providers or other category, raise your hand. A lot of you guys as well. Wonderful. So we're going to be sharing a little bit of our story on how we integrated serialized product distribution systems for customer service and operational efficiency. So our founding was a little bit unique. It was very unconventional. We only had about 4 months from the time that we were formed to the time that we had to distribute drug to patients all over the United States. So in that 4 months, we had to truly build the foundation of our company. So that meant getting our SOPs ready, getting our licensure, and also getting systems in place. Now, TraceLink, that is the success story in this whole thing. We were able to get them up and running within about 4 months. But when it came time to get an ERP system, I met with 2 different solution providers, and they both told me the same thing. Unfortunately, due to your tight time frame, there is no way that we're going to be able to get a solution up and running for you. So that left us to get an out-of-the-box kind of turnkey solution to fit our need until we could get something a little bit better. And so we implemented this system, and it was rough because like any out-of-the-box system, it was all manual controls. It was not scaling with us. And then our partner turned on us a little bit and said, we're going to change the model. So instead of being a traditional wholesale drug distributor, we're going to change to a 3PL title model. So we had to do all of these complex different processes within this very simplistic system. And then we're still very much in startup mode at this time. Our headcount at that point was not what it is right now. And so it was myself in operations, and then we had a gentleman in finance trying to implement this system. And there came a point when I realized I'm in over my head a little bit because I'm a business major. You know, I know the things at a very high level. I know all the processes. I know the legal requirements. But when it came time to really get the system requirements, I was really lacking in a lot of knowledge there. And so that's when we hired Sam. I went to the leadership team and I said, you know, I'm in over my head. I think we need somebody to come that has experience in this because we have all these initiatives we want to get accomplished. And I don't think that with the people doing that right now, myself, that we can get that done and do it well. So Sam came on board, and I remember telling him, you're going to start, and your very first week, we're going to go with phase 1 of this project because we're going to do this in a phased approach just because there's a lot of work at the time. And so then about a week before phase 1 was supposed to go live, the COO sits me down in her office, and she says, I have this gut feeling that we're not ready to go live yet. She said, I think we need to wait and go all in. So what does all in look like? All in looked like for us, for our pre-integration pain points, siloed systems, leading to human error and duplication of effort. So we had our TraceLink system, and we had our ERP system, and they were running completely independently of each other. Additionally, our systems were not validated by a third party for our unique business use case. Now, the system did have the SOC 1, SOC 2 reports, but it did not have that 21 CFR validation. So our key business drivers in this implementation were 1, scalability and efficiency, 2, compliance from both a DSCSA and 21 CFR Part 11 perspective, and then 3, enhancing the experience for our customers.
So when I came onto the project with Summit, they were looking for someone who had some experience with the systems and kind of brought a process mindset to our implementation. And I like to think of myself as sort of the translator between some of your key stakeholders in a company and then your development team who are actually doing the work and producing the system. And a key role as a translator is to make sure that everyone is aligned on the same ideas, right? So with that comes one of our first steps in any project and how we approach it is starting with your business needs and not necessarily the technology. And what I mean by that is it can be really easy when you're doing a project like this or an implementation to get caught up in these new tools and get so excited to use them. But before you get ahead of yourself and communicate to the developers exactly how our company works, you need to understand what are our goals? What are the gaps that we have in our current system? What are our pain points? And what are the root causes of it? So again, you need to start with your business needs and not the tech. So Ryan, if you remember the first week that I came on, obviously need to get my feet underneath me and understand what these business needs are. So I tell Ryan, I say, hey, why don't you go in a conference room and let's write out the whole process down on a whiteboard. So I need to know how our product moves. I need to know where the data flows, where we're touching the systems, how everything is integrated. So this was our system when I came in. You'll notice it's not very integrated. So we've talked a lot about Mint and getting away from siloed systems. Well, if you want to see a siloed system, here you go. I'm sure you're all noticing the giant brick wall between TraceLink and our ERP system.
It's ugly for a reason.
Yeah, so what that brick wall meant was that every time that we would receive any shipments, we would do any inventory transfers, or we would do any downstream shipping, we would have to enter that in two separate systems completely separately. And this opens us up to a lot of different errors. On top of just being slow, anytime that someone's typing in a value, people miskey things all the time. And so we're suddenly managing multiple customer registries, multiple ship-to addresses. It gets really messy really quick. Some other pain points that we had with this legacy ERP system was, if you'll notice the CSV files, that's not an automatic import. So that's someone manually going to our accounting software or our EDI platform, downloading that file, and then uploading it into our ERP system. The other problem was we're working across a lot of systems that aren't talking to each other. And so it can be very difficult to take data and build reports. So there are times where it could take a week or more to validate that data, make sure that it's all aggregated and the correct fields are lining up with each other. So we walked through this process. We identified what our system looked like. And on the previous slide, we were talking about key business drivers. I think this is about the point where we realized breaking down that brick wall was #1 priority for us. So we identified our business needs. The next step was working with the experts and getting the right people in the room to walk us through this process. I had experience with Microsoft Dynamics and kind of how the processes of the company worked, but I needed help on the TraceLink side. So we reached out to TraceLink, and Ted, I think you're in the room. You've been on plenty of those calls. We spent lots of time learning the system together, and they also introduced us to an implementation team that we used. And so we were able to identify not just the gaps within our own knowledge, but our team. And so we were able to get that external help to be in the room and be part of those conversations as we were implementing this project. And that's just the first piece. So we want to get the right people in the room, we get our outside experts, and then you have to look inward. Now, as much as I'm sure Ryan or I would love to tell you that we're total experts on every piece of SummitSD and we know how it all works, we aren't the ones doing the work every day, and there's always going to be someone who knows that system just a little bit better. So this is when we turn to our subject matter experts, or SMEs for your corporate lingo. And that looked like getting our warehousing team, our operations team, our accounting team, and our quality team, and getting them involved in the project. Because oftentimes, as you're developing a new process in a new system, they're going to be some of the first people to stop and say, well, that just doesn't really work right, or our warehouse isn't set up to do it that way. And they aren't just going to point out problems, they're also going to be the first ones to come up with solutions. They do the work every day, and they're really familiar with these systems. So far, we've started with our business needs, not the technology. We've gotten the right people in the room. Now what? So this is where we got together and we put our system together. We mapped the whole thing out. It's pretty nice, right? There's no brick walls. There's no CSV files. We have lots of data flowing freely from end to end of our process. Now, I would love to tell you guys that we sat in a conference room for a couple hours, we knocked it out, got lunch, and had a system that was working. Reality is a little bit different than that. This process was very iterative. A day in the life of coming up with this integration was Ryan, myself, our subject matter experts, we'd get in a conference room, we'd whiteboard things out, and we would say, okay, this is the system. We know how the data flows, we know how they're going to talk to each other, this is it. And we would take it to our developers, and they'd give us about 15 different reasons why we can't do it that way. Okay, let's try it again. So we'd get back in the conference room, we'd be so confident, this is it, this is the system. And again, they tell us maybe there's 9 reasons. And so we go through this process a couple times, and what was really good about it is you really learn what each system is developed for and what each system is best at. And so the beautiful thing about this is we are able to use TraceLink as a serialization system and serialization database. And so there's no reason for those serial numbers to ever hit our ERP system. That was one less piece of data we had to deal with because those systems are already talking. So that iterative process of getting the right people in the room and working through solutions and throwing something in the wall and seeing what sticks is really what that step is all about.
Yeah, it also involved really being uncomfortable sometimes. Because when we'd go to those developers and we say, all right, I think we fixed it this time, and they came back with more issues, it started to become apparent that how are we going to do this? But if I have any piece of advice, it's you have to give the experts room to find a solution for you, because how you're running your business today might not be how you're running it tomorrow, and what worked yesterday might not work tomorrow. Additionally, you have to be honest with yourself and say, where are we falling short as a company, and how can we fix this with the implementation? But then even take that a step further and say, not just how can we fix this with the implementation, but how can we make our processes better, and then how can we future-proof our systems as well?
And we accomplished a lot with this new system. So one thing that was really a big challenge for us was we're both a 3PL and a wholesale distributor. So that means we have 2 separate instances of TraceLink, or basically in TraceLink's eyes, we kind of operate as 2 separate companies. You might notice we only have 1 ERP system. So that in itself was a challenge to make sure that as we moved inventory around, we received orders, we fulfilled orders, making sure that our ERP instance is working with the correct TraceLink, whether it's a 3PL order or a wholesale order. This was a really important step for us to accomplish, though, because it future-proofs our system. If we have any future partners that want to be 3PL or wholesale or do any mixture of the 2, we need to be prepared for that. And so we are able to accomplish that through API connections, and a lot of it goes through these custom transfer orders to move inventory between the 2 systems. Something else that we accomplished with this new system was the introduction of an online ordering portal. So for our customers that don't have EDI solutions, receiving an order, what that used to look like was we would get an email, and then again, we would manually key that order in. And if there's one thing about me, and you might be clear by the end of this, I really don't like manual data entry. I'm someone who also builds a lot of reports, so that takes a lot of my time. So anytime we can get an automated system and fields to auto-populate, that is a big plus. And it worked twofold, too, because it also provided our customers with a better experience to ordering. It's very similar to Amazon. You have a portal. All of their pricing is custom. So if you have government 340B pricing or WAC pricing, we can show the difference between the 2 and make sure that you see the pricing that is correct. And also, we're compliant with limited distribution, so customers can't see drugs that they wouldn't be able to purchase. So the ordering portal was another big step in helping getting things automated and reducing that manual error and putting more controls in place. And in general, with this new system, and specifically Microsoft Dynamics, controls were another big step. So the customization that you can do with it allows us to put rules in place that can keep orders from flowing that shouldn't. We're able to track customer licensure within our ERP system, so it's one less place to look. It no longer lives in an Excel spreadsheet. So that has been really good. The final thing that I'm going to say before I give it back to Ryan about this is all of our data is now connected in one spot. And so these reports that could take a week or more to gather and were such a pain and weren't always the most accurate, we now have almost live connections to our data, and we can see where our products are, and it has never been faster for us to pull reports and look at things in different ways. There's a million different ways you can graph our sales information and slice it and dice it and do fun bar charts. So that's made reporting just significantly easier for us.
Yeah, to add to that, we do government price reporting on behalf of the manufacturer, and that used to be a report that was so time intensive. It involves very heavy regulatory risk if it's done incorrectly, and so that's one of those things that used to take me half a day to do. Now it is a one-button export, and all we do is verify it against the golden record to make sure that everything looks good. But now, again, it's one button exported, and then it is done. Another thing the system has allowed us to do is give our warehouse operations and even our customer operations team more time to work on and focus on the business rather than just be in the systems. So our warehouse guys now do not have to duplicate their processes and do order A in system 1, then order A in system 2 as well. On top of that, we have reduced our DSCSA exceptions from around an average, I think it was 7%, down to -1%. I wish that. Down to 1%, something that we are very proud of to this day.
So we've kind of talked about our accomplishments, and we've talked about all the things that we've done with this project and what it took to get there. But I'm sure you guys are wondering why. So why do we invest all this time and money and effort into our systems? And it's because it goes with one of our core beliefs is better systems equal better patient care. So when we have a system that produces less exceptions or gives us predictive analytics on our inventory, where there's less shortages, that means more patients have better access to medication that they need. So that's a really big driver for us to lay this foundation down, because this isn't it. The system could look different in a year from now. We're always looking for ways to increase our efficiency, reduce errors, improve quality. And we really believe that that is the key, is that there's a patient behind every delivery we do. So as we move to our key takeaways, we just want to walk you through our process one more time. And so starting with the business need is essential in a project like this. Have those goals in mind. Know what your company needs to do, because the tools aren't in your company, they're just how you get there. And then you get the right people in the room. So understanding where you might fall short as a team and get that external help, but then also lean on those subject matter experts within your own company who are doing that work day to day and who can really dig in and help you optimize those processes. And that can be really uncomfortable, right? I know we had a lot of ownership on this project, and it could be difficult to not know what the answer was or not be the most knowledgeable in the room on how a specific system works. That's tough. But giving that space for people to get creative and come up with new solutions, I truly think it delivered dividends on our final product. And again, it all builds towards better systems or better patient care. And we just hope that showing you guys this today and walking you through our process and our commitment to quality and better systems, we think that if everyone in the industry did this, whether they're partners with us or not, a stronger supply chain helps everybody in the industry. So yeah, we hope that this inspires you guys to go down a similar route, and we'd be happy to tell you more about it. But Ryan, I'm going to give it to you.
Yeah, so looking into the future, we now have all this interoperable data and systems talking to each other. Now what? So obviously we're here at FutureLink, and Mint is the next thing, and I think we're going to jump on board with that. So if we can get this interoperability that within the Mint network and then within our own internal systems, this is what we would love to see moving forward. I think another thing that I see is a culture of quality from both a people perspective and a process perspective, as well as from a systems perspective. Because honestly, like Sam said, that chart that we gave, our system architecture, while it's a very simplified version of what it actually is, I don't think that that's what it's going to look like in a year from now, and probably not even 6 months from now. We're continually trying to build and trying to provide more value to all of our stakeholders, all the way from the manufacturer down to the patient. So that's our big initiative. And then, of course, incorporating AI into that. I'm still doing my own research on what I feel with that, because we still want to stay in the framework of 21 CFR Part 11. But I think that it's going to be a big tool in the future. And so today, we just wanted to give this presentation essentially because we want to see this initiative adopted across the industry, whether you are our partner or not, because a stronger supply chain does help everybody. we kind of have this ethos within our company that every single product we sell is going to somebody's parent, it's going to somebody's grandparent, or it's going to somebody's child. And we can never lose sight of that when we're sitting at our desk just because the patient is not calling us. Because when we work to build this stronger supply chain and we reduce exceptions and patients get their medications faster, like, what else can you do? So we appreciate your guys' time today, and opening for questions if you guys have any.
All right, any questions? It's always the one on the other side of the room.
So you just told your ERP is integrated with TraceLink, right?
Correct.
That's something we are trying to do too. We have an Oracle ERP, and what I want to understand is what exact data are you transferring between those two instances, between TraceLink and ERP, and during what processes or what steps of the warehouse operations, so that we get an understanding at what level of integration you have between those two systems.
Yeah, so like I said, early on we kind of realized there's sort of this really less is more in some scenarios. So obviously the systems are connected and that data is connected, but for TraceLink, when we have an order come through, all we need to send for the customers for it to know which customer we're talking about is the SGLN number. And so for any one that we're connected with as a trading partner, we send the SGLN number. And then if that SGLN field is null, then we know to send that to the Opus platform as a dropship situation. So that's the customer information that goes over. And then again, like I said, the serialization data, we don't, TraceLink is designed around that. So there's no reason to bring the serialization data into the ERP system because we can access it either way. And so as far as the data goes, I believe it's just the quantity and the NDCs that gets sent back and forth and the lot number. Yeah, lot number.
We're still talking that way.
Yes.
So on the floor, right, in your warehouse, you probably do a lot of aggregation, deaggregation, changing the container numbers, for example, SSCCs, basically, right? So when you do this, you still use two different interface guns, right, for the operators on the floor, which is one a set gun with TraceLink and another WMS gun, or is that also
Yeah, so
integrated?
We have two separate guns.
It's the sit gun. Well, that depends if it's 3PL title. If you're talking about just straight distribution, we have the sit platform on a gun, and then the ERP system's on the screen.
Oh,
so you
true,
are still
true.
using two different systems, but again, you're not redesigning the wheel. You're going. I think is it through the.
As you submit, so we would receive an order, right? We need to fulfill this order. And once we have released it, so we verified that it's good to go, that creates a pick order. And then so that pick order would then show up on TraceLink in the scanner, and then we would scan that product out, and that TraceLink would then send the lot numbers back to the ERP system that we picked, and then it would get packed, shipped, label printed. So it kind of bounces back and forth, but we're not bouncing back and forth on a system. It's just they have the computer open and then they have the scanner open, and that's sort of what the process looks like for us in our warehouse.
So it's essentially one set gun. Whatever you aggregate and pick automatically gets transmitted to ERP, and that gets reflected there.
True. Yes.
That's okay. Got it. Thank you.
All right, other questions?
Yeah, one up here.
Hi, can you talk a little bit about how you're leveraging serialization into your day-to-day warehouse operations, and any SOP changes that you've made around that, after you've introduced serialization?
So like you're talking about like exception management and
Yeah, exception management, scanning as such, and things of those nature.
Cass, you want to answer? That's our director of quality right there.
Essentially, serialization and GDP, GMP, light, essentially, since we're not a manufacturer, is kind of the core of everything that we do as far as SOPs and any implementation of our processes. So following these GDP guidelines, following serialization, all of our systems and our processes are standardized. They are, either an SOP or work instructions, and then we follow the similar guidelines that you would for GMP for deviations management, exceptions management. We do an investigation. We do change management, all of the things that you would expect to see in any GMP environment. We also follow those as part of our GDP practices and, following DSCSA and serialization standardization. So.
Yeah, and once we validated the system, we already had a lot of the screenshots, which made it nice to make all the work instructions, because obviously you had to change all your workflows and all the change management procedures there. But once we had all that with the validation, it kind of helped to develop those.
Other questions? See, again, other side of the room. That side, exact front.
So I see you guys have two different instances in
Yes.
TraceLink. One is wholesale drug distributor and one is for 3PL.
Correct.
In terms of functionalities and usage in operations, how do you differentiate that?
I can speak to it. So we, within our, and I can, if it's helpful, I can pull the screen up. It's not that helpful. So within the ERP system, that's where we manage our inventory for the most part. And we have, I believe it's called locations. I might misspeak on the exact thing, but so there's locations and then there's bins, right? And so location is where we differentiate between whether it's 3PL and wholesale inventory, so that our accounting team, it all jives with their general ledger. And then whenever we have a touch point with TraceLink, so say we do a transfer order from 3PL inventory to wholesale inventory, basically whatever that bin code, whatever location that's in, is what's telling the system which instance to connect with. And so we really have three main points where our system is touching TraceLink, and that's whenever we receive product, we have to receive it in TraceLink, and then that information has to line up with what shows up in our ERP system. And then inventory transfer, so anytime we move inventory from wholesale to 3PL or vice versa, we need to let TraceLink know that that inventory is moving between their instances. And then anytime we ship to a downstream partner, obviously we need TraceLink to send that that serialization data.
And to add to that, in case you're wondering, why did you not just have another instance of Business Central? So how we're licensed, we don't have another business entity for our 3PL, and so from a financial auditing perspective, you have to have everything under one database. If you have it under, it doesn't matter about licensure, it matters about your tax identification number. So it has to be the same database. So that's why we had to have one instance.
All right, we have like 2 minutes left. I don't know if anybody else has another question or if you guys want to break a moment early. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. And yeah, I imagine you're going to be around a little.
So there's a networking break right after this. So if any of you want to talk more details, just find us. We'll probably be right by the escalators. So
All right.
thank you.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much.